And the truth is, nature also has things that are not beautiful, that are not so delicate and pretty. And yet they're important, and they're interesting, and they're useful. And Brookwood girls are not afraid of creepy crawly things. They're not afraid of mud. They're not afraid of slimy things that crawl in the earth. And so that is why we're going to study decomposers. Decomposers have a very important role to play. They break down the dead things that have fallen to the earth, the dead leaves, the logs and branches, even animal wastes and dead animals, and they recycle their nutrients. They put their nutrients back in the soil and new things can grow. And since Brookwood girls are fearless and adventurous, it's time to study some creepy, crawly, slimy things and look in the mud. All right, let's begin. I'm gonna lift up this fallen log to see if we find anything interesting here. Let's see. Oh, yes. A nice wheel. And I don't know if you can see it, but there was a centipede that crawled away, and there's a pill bug too. I don't know if you can see him. There's a lot of pill bugs right here. Able to catch a view of those? There they are. Many pill bugs. Those are called wood lice, and they are decomposers. And this beetle here is a decomposer, eating up dead stuff. That looks like a small best beetle. Usually they're bigger. And this piece of wood has a little bit of shelf fungus on it. They're called shelf fungus because they grow on many tree trunks and they stick out horizontally like a little shelf. I'm sure you've seen them often. They're not always this brightly colored. They can be dull colors also. And they break down the wood that they're growing on. And here are, of course, are some of the grossest, slimiest decomposers around. The earthworms. Everybody knows and loves these. I just pushed aside some dead leaves and some dirt, and they're in the dirt because they're eating the little bits of, tiny bits of dead leaves, tiny bits of broken bark and twig and so on. And they just devour that stuff up and digest it and turn it into rich, fertile soil. Although they're not decomposers, one just has to enjoy what one sees outdoors. Look at these prickly buds, which will become little white flowers, and each one of them will become a fruit. Can any of you guess what they are? Look at the prickly red stems. I believe they're wineberries, kind of like a wild raspberry. And they're really neat to look at. They're even better to taste when they ripen in July. And so each one of these buds will open, become a flower, and each flower its ovary will ripen and become fruit. I turned over another log, hoping to show you millipedes. I didn't find millipedes, but look what I found. Many ant eggs. And now that the ants have been disturbed, they want to protect their eggs, so they're carrying them away. Can you see them carrying those white things away? They're going to take their nest somewhere else because they say, this log is no longer safe. So they're carrying their eggs off to another safe place. Look what a strange decomposer I found here. All right, I know we're supposed to be studying gross decomposers, but look at this. I believe it's a catalpa tree. Look at its flowers. They're just amazing. And each one of those flowers, if it gets pollinated, will become a long pod. Those long green beanish pods that you see right across from the Safeway as you enter Brookwood. I'm sure many of you have noticed them in the fall. Here at this fallen trunk, we see the work of decomposers. What have they done to this once solid hardwood? They have turned it into fine dust. It's really becoming dirt. Right? And that's how new fertile dirt is made, by things that break down and are decomposed. Many insects feast on wood, so I'm just going to break this off and see if we see anything. More eggs. And I was hoping to show you some millipedes, because millipedes are great decomposers. Look at all that fine soil that they're making as they break down this wood. But I'm not having any luck finding millipedes. I'm not sure what that is. It could be a millipede larvae or something newly hatched. In any case, Lots of interesting things to find in dead, rotting wood. Oh, here's a good number of them. Take a look at all those. I can't see the robin, but I can hear him. I have found him. Oh, he flew away. All right, let's finish this lesson just by making sure we really understand what decomposers are. And so here I pointed out that the woods, or the ground in the woods, are full of debris, right? Fallen logs and leaves. And what happens to them? Our ground would be so full of them. We always have some, but we don't have that much compared to what there would be if there wasn't something taking care of them and getting rid of them. And also, we would be full of the stench of animal wastes, right? Animal poop and dead animals if there wasn't something that took care of all these things. What takes care of them? You girls all know? Decomposers. So let's give some formal definitions. A decomposer breaks down dead plants, animals, and wastes. That includes all these things: fallen leaves, fallen trunks, branches, and twigs, wastes from animals, in other words, animal poop, even dead animals, and uses them as food. I wanted to notice that when you see something rotting, you think of it as negative, because if there's a fruit rotting, you say, oh, yuck, I don't want to eat it. Well, rotting is unpleasant at first, but after it gets over that part that's a little bit stinky and unpleasant, it produces something that is clean and healthy, right? Fertile dirt rich with nutrients. And so a decomposer really recycles the nutrients of all the dead organisms or the wastes. And that's how it turns it into rich, fertile soil. So look at all the decomposers that there are, right? One of the most famous is worms. They actually eat dirt and poop it out. And worm poop is not bad poop. Worm poop is wonderful soil for your garden. So it's one type of poop that's wonderful and not to be considered dirty or yucky. So worms are our friends. The fungus and mushrooms of all types are decomposers. These I think are really cool. You've probably seen them often on tree trunks. Shelf fungus, but all mushrooms and fungus are doing that kind of work. Millipedes, if you go far out into the woods, you can see the really big fat ones that are so fun. And by the way, some people are scared of millipedes, but they're perfectly harmless. And it's really neat to watch their many legs working. Pill bugs, or they have many names, roly-polies, wood lice. These are all decomposers. Best beetles also. And there's decomposers that eat dead leaves and that are in the dirt. There's decomposers that eat wood. There's insects that bore into wood and eat the wood. That's why woodpeckers can find such good meals in trunks. But the most important decomposer of all is invisible to us. It's microscopic. Bacteria. They're breaking things down all the time. And they're bacteria that are good, that are healthy and good. So perhaps you've often seen a food chain or a food web, right? So here's an example. A rabbit eats plants. Then the fox or the owl might eat a rabbit. And this is a whole chain of many organisms, how they work together. Well, there's one part of it that's always been overlooked. Whenever all of these animals, be they herbivores or carnivores, whenever they poop and eventually when they die, their wastes return. And because of the work of decomposers, their nutrients are returned to the soil, which is what makes new plants able to grow. So that's why it's a big cycle. It's what that song is about in The Lion King. Compost, vegetable compost, you might have seen some, is a great example of decomposers helping us make rich soil. Many gardeners have compost, and farmers too have to fertilize their soil. So again, notice that at first it seems all yucky and gross and smelly, but that doesn't last long. When it decomposes fully, it is not at all yucky. It's very good soil. Same thing happens with cow manure. That many farmers use cow manure to fertilize their crops. And it seems really gross, but instead it's good for the soil and makes new things grow well. Okay, here is a quiz. This is a very important quiz. When you see these up close, they're kind of startling for many people, right? So when you see a decomposer, an appropriate exclamation is A, oh, gross. B, you disgusting, vile creature. Get away from me and get out of my yard. C, thank you. I appreciate the fertile soil you're making and the nutrients that you are recycling. D, keep up the good work. And of course, if you've learned a lesson well, you know that only C and D are appropriate exclamations.
So I expect you to use only those in the future. Okay, one last aside, because I saw 2 salamanders last weekend. Salamanders are found under rocks and logs too. Is that because they're decomposers? It might seem to be the case, would be a reasonable guess, but salamanders are carnivores. They eat insects and worms. They stay under logs and rocks because they are wet places. And salamanders have a special skin. It cannot dry out. Lizards can bask in the sunshine, but salamanders are completely different. They're amphibians, and their skin must stay wet. Okay, enjoy looking under leaves and logs and finding all kinds of fun things. Take care, girls.